I came back from a training and like half of my team got COVID. And I thought it was COVID. No, it was just a cold.
Oh, well, good.
But I was concerned, so I didn't want to come hang out with people until I went to the doctor and got a test and all that. So
Good. I'm glad you didn't get it.
me too, because several of our team ended up in the emergency room. It was very bad. Yes.
Now I have 6:30 p.m. We're going to turn this over to Mrs. Woods with the Employee and Community Relations Committee to discuss the police department hourly employees. Mrs. Woods.
Thank you. Chief, would you like to come up and talk to us about our proposal here?
So, starting last fall, we started a position as a detective in the to focus on drug investigations. And my goal for this whole time has been to have a two-person detective, two people out of our detective division focused on the drug investigations within town. And tonight I brought with me Detective Sergeant Justin Willis, and I thought you guys might like to hear it from the horse's mouth, as it were, as to what we're looking to do and what the goals are. And he's done an outstanding job for us. He really has. And I'm going to turn it over to him for a few minutes, and then I'll answer any questions anybody else might have.
Can we hear from the dog too?
What's that?
That
She doesn't
dog,
look
yeah.
particularly
Oh, geez.
ready to talk, does she?
Oh, we'll let him talk then.
She has a hard life.
Look stuff.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Justin Willis. I'm a sergeant at Mount Vernon PD, currently assigned to the Detectives Division. And recently, the chief was instrumental in getting us moved over to more of a drug role. So some of what I do is basically drive around, gather intelligence, look at what's going on, kind of gather some of those anonymous calls we get, giving information, compiling a lot of that information, and then trying to go out there and find ways to slow down that activity, shut down that activity, things of that nature. We're also part of Metrich, so they keep us pretty busy with things going on. It's several counties, kind of up into the Richland area and northwest Ohio. We do a lot with them. Most recently, we just had Drug Take Back Day. We're able to take back quite a bit of prescription medication and stuff like that and get it back to the DEA. So that keeps us pretty busy. I work with a lot of the road units, and you guys have been hearing all year long about how busy the road guys are, how they're getting a lot of phone calls, a lot of calls for service. So sometimes when we have a good drug car that's getting ready to move from a house, or we have good information that shipment's coming into the city, it's kind of hard to get that stopped sometimes. So with the addition of a second drug detective, you know, if we needed to, we could put them in a marked car to be able to make traffic stops, things of that nature. I drive around, I have a pretty flexible schedule. Drugs don't always move, you know, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. So I try to bounce around, work some weekend stuff, a lot of midnight shift stuff. The city gets busy once the sun goes down, the street lights come on. So we try to do a lot of hours then. So having a second person would kind of give us another, 40 hours a week minimum of coverage to see things, compile things. We work close with the road units, and we help develop them so that way they know what they're looking for, and that way we can help combat illicit drug usage and the funneling of it through the city, through the patrolmen when I'm not gone. So what I'm able to pass on to those guys education-wise, they can kind of pick up and keep going. I have some statistics here. 2023, we had 95 drug indictments as an agency. 2024, we saw an uptick to 101, and this year we're already at 21 indictments. We took over a pound of meth off the streets in 23, and 2024 we took 1.75 pounds of meth. It might not sound like a lot with a lot of the Columbus drug busts and things you hear, but everybody typically has, a gram or a couple grams. Sometimes you'll see more, but that's just a lot of different busts and a lot of illicit drugs being taken from people. We have a lot of overdose deaths, not a lot of overdose deaths. We had 4 in 2023, 5 in 24, and no so far this year, none, but we do have 2 pending, waiting on toxicology to see on the deaths. Survivors in 23, we had 24 documented. Survivors in I'm sorry, that was 23, 24. 24, 12, and this year 1 so far, but everybody has Narcan luckily now, so we're not seeing as many overdoses because they're kind of able to take care of that. But there is still an opioid problem and things we're dealing with here in the city. So by being proactive and trying to take the drugs off the streets, if we can save one of those lives or help get them to treatment and things like that. Recently we had a success story. We had a female. She got a hold of us and let us know, you know, we got her stopped and told us that we saved her life essentially. She has custody of her kids again. She's doing well. She's working in the community. And it was just one traffic stop is kind of what put that all in motion to get her started. Summer's coming up. We're going to see an uptick in crime. A lot of that's drug associated, right? Thefts from vehicles, thefts from residences, thefts from the stores. Walmart's been pretty busy lately. So we're kind of getting amped up and geared for that because we're going to see an increase in call volume. But the value, I think, would have less flow of drugs through the city, would kind of keep us more well known with who the players are, who's working for who, kind of who's associated with what. Decrease in property crimes, safer working environment for everybody. Guns are typically associated with narcotics. We see that through training and experience, so it kind of helps us do that. We took quite a few guns off the streets, 25 and 23. 46 and 24 and 13 so far this year, so we're on track to potentially have 50 guns that are associated with drugs and other crimes taken off the streets. The addition of another dedicated drug detective would enhance the effectiveness of the Mount Vernon's drug enforcement efforts and facilitate the removal of illicit substances from the community while emphasizing recovery initiatives and proactive outreach efforts. So the second drug detective could help make those connections with our community advocates to kind of get them in touch and try to make sure, you know, recovery also with the enforcement is having special attention placed on it. It's not just about going out there and going after the dealers. It's about trying to build those bonds, those relationships to get them into recovery as well. So that's kind of what I put together. If you guys have any questions or...
Is meth still number one?
Meth is very prevalent. It is number one right now. Actually, we had a pretty good cocaine bust the other day, and so cocaine has now jumped meth this year, but I foresee meth being number one, but cocaine's made a huge comeback. It's in all the bars right now. It's very busy with cocaine in town as well. We haven't seen it as much the last few years, but for some reason, it's making a comeback.
I was gonna say, what, you have no reason to cocaine, why is it coming back?
They go in cycles.
It's the
Yeah.
cycles?
What gets brought in, what gets popular, what falls out of favor.
Cheaper?
That's what I was wondering.
The meth is the cheapest right now. And the worst part and the scary part we've talked about before is the fentanyl. The fentanyl's what's doing the real harm in deaths and serious overdoses and stuff like that, because it is so easy to get a lethal dose with so very little. And again, we've seen a rise in fentanyl. We've seen a rise over the last 2 years in fentanyl of what we've taken. We took 49 grams in 23 and over 55 grams in 24, and we're at over 5 grams already this year.
How do you protect the police from exposure to fentanyl?
We have protocols. The guys, when they're working, if they come across something that's a white powder, they don't touch it. They don't sniff it. They don't smell it. They don't do the old TB. Yeah, that's what that is, right? No. Gloves. We mandate when you're searching somebody, when you're searching cars, when you're patting people down to have gloves on. But it does happen. They had is it Ashland?
It's Loudonville.
Loudonville officer that got into some fentanyl and he had to self-administer his own Narcan.
Oh, gosh.
In the past, we have had an officer go to the hospital for exposure to what we believed was fentanyl. It's dangerous, and it's a dangerous job trying to get it off the streets too. So these guys, my guys, do a tremendous job of this.
We want to
And,
protect them.
We want to protect them, and I want to give them the tools and the personnel and the manpower to be able to do this. So along with what he's talking about, we're also part of the Knox County Drug Coalition with the Knox County Sheriff's Office, Fredericktown Police Department, Danville Police Department. So we work countywide. We do drug interventions when we gather up all these different resources and go out and hit it hard for a night here and a night there, and combine all our intel information. And the addition of an extra person will greatly enhance that.
And if I could,
Yes,
I had some questions, so I emailed the chief, and he, what was our last 3 pieces of legislation with staffing? So in April of '21, we added the community advocate, and that was funded through the grant. In March of '23, added 3 new officers to the total staffing. And then in October 24, so just a few months ago, we changed the ratio of supervisors and patrolmen. So, and that was because of Sergeant Bowen.
Correct.
So, so this person would be, this new person specifically in the drug enforcement area?
So the way it filters up, what you folks are doing for me tonight is giving me another officer to my bottom line. That's not saying the new guy we hire is going to be the next drug detective. Somebody that's already shown their skills, paid their dues, and is ready and eager to go work in this is going to move up to the detective division, which will create a vacuum down in the patrol division, and the new position will bring that back up to full staff. So, you know, it's like when the chief retires, by the time it's all said and done, the person that gets added is at the bottom.
So you're wanting to add somebody at the detective level. How many total detectives?
That will give us a total of, we have 5 now, and that will give us a total of 6.
Okay.
Which is the same amount that when the sheriff's office is full. And the sheriff's office is down several detectives right now, and that plays into this a little bit as well. That they don't have the manpower right now. They've had some personnel changes, and they're working on getting it fixed, and we work well with them together. But their manpower is a little bit down.
And we just got some indictment numbers. That was one of the other questions
Yes.
I got, so.
Our indictments are going up every year. Multiple counts. And I know the big question in the room, it's always the question is, how do we pay for this, right? This was, excuse me, this was put forth in my budget. This was part of the plan for this year to move forward. It is budgeted for. The salary and auxiliary fees are budgeted for. Currently, right now, we're about, I can give you the exact number. We're $83,826 under budget right now for the year, for what I planned for salary lines. So we're about $83,000 under budget.
Chief, I'm on the COTC Board of Trustees, and we have we're building a new facility for police training. What is the number of applicants you had 5 years ago for a police officer versus today?
It's going way down. And we're hoping to build that back up. So when I took the test in 1998, okay, to start here, we had 60 people show up to take the test for 2 positions. The last time we had a test, we had 6 people sign up to take the test, 5 people showed up to take it, and 2 passed it.
Wow.
There's a lot of factors that play into that. You folks have done a great job helping us with the wages, getting them up where they should be to attract people so we're not losing them to Columbus. I believe the environment we have here keeps our people here. The culture we have at the police department, I think, keeps our people here. And all the social things that happened over the last few years really drove down the people that want to be police officers. And I think we got to turn that around. We got to come back. Talking with Kathy Greenwich out there, I love the idea of having a police academy right here in our hometown. If nothing else, it gives me first pick.
I will tell you, though, I think that trend is changing, and again, I'm talking for Madison County, obviously. We have always had a public safety course for high school kids, and usually have 25 juniors, 25 seniors. Next year, we've had 50 applicants. We hire another teacher. So I think the trend is changing.
It's all these trends are on a cycle. Just like you asked me 5 years ago what was the big drug. 6 years ago it was heroin. Heroin was huge here for a while, and then all of a sudden it took a nosedive, and then here comes the meth, and then some genius figured out let's mix fentanyl with it and really kill people. So everything goes in cycles. It's
I
like
have
the weather
2
and
minutes
everything
left here.
Okay.
I
I'm
just
sorry.
want to make sure we get
So
to questions.
Chief, you're basically $83,000 ahead right now, right?
Correct. On budget.
What do you attribute that to? Is are we paying less overtime? Is that a piece of that or not necessarily?
we're paying less overtime because my guys are working harder. My guys, you know, they're looking at the calendar and going, hey, somebody's already off today, I probably shouldn't take off and create overtime. You know, knock on wood, we haven't had anybody injured or time off and that type of thing. But my patrol commander and my sergeants that manage the overtime, they do a great job of it. Hey, instead of having training on this day where we create 3 blocks of 12 hours of overtime, let's move it to this day. Let's look at the schedule and keep it down. Any other questions?
So you budgeted for it.
Yes, ma'am.
There's a need. Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
I would like to, if it's possible, we could, I think we spoke about it, move it through tonight, if it can. Okay.
Thank you.
We're going to adjourn the Employee and Community Relations Committee. We'll move now to Land Use and Development. Mrs. Skeeter, discuss the Knox County Comprehensive Plan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I apologize for missing last week. I feared that I had the COVID, and I did not. I just had the cold. So we do have 10 minutes. I feel like we have beat this horse to death, and I feel like we know what is in this comprehensive plan, but I want to go around and ask if there are any questions, and I'll start with Lynanne.
No.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks.
I figured if anybody had a good one, you would. Janice, do you have any questions?
No, I agree with you. We've been over it.
Bruce?
We beat it to death.
I only got one question. I knew I would when you weren't here, so I asked for this meeting. Somebody asked me, is Mount Vernon the last to approve this? Have all the other municipalities approved this? Or
So,
I think so.
It's just the county and the city that is the.
are the only ones approving it? Okay.
That approve it. Now, there are others who endorse it. I didn't mean to.
no, you're
I'm
fine.
sorry.
Go for it.
There are groups and agencies that will endorse it. Owl Creek Conservancy, for example, has endorsed it. I can't remember.
I think Philander Chase.
Philander Chase
endorsed
has
it.
also endorsed it.
I know it references like Gambier and Fredericktown. People were asking, have those communities
Well, with their
endorsed it?
buy-in to Regional Planning Commission, through that process, it was voted on at Regional Planning Commission. And each of, well, the ones who, join Regional Planning Commission had a say and had a vote. And I believe the only one who voted no was Jefferson.
Maybe.
There was one,
Liberty.
Liberty. Okay.
Liberty.
If only someone was there. Okay, yeah, Liberty Township.
Do we know why?
So they did not like how some of the recommendations laid out development, just suggestions. Again, this is a guiding document. This does not tell us where to put anything. It's not like this is, Knox County is a bedroom and they're saying, put the bed there and the nightstand there and a lamp here. No, it's just a suggestion. And what they did not like was the size of the lots, I believe, was not agreeable to them. The recommendation is that we stop breaking up big farms into little, 1 acre, 2 acre, 5 acre plots, especially along visible routes. And Liberty Township is very happy with how that is going. So that was their stance. Mr. Ruckman?
It's riveting reading.
It is
I will
really good.
comment that. But other than that, no.
You should have gone through the drafts, 'cause there were.
Glad you did that, but I'm okay with it. I believe, like you just mentioned your last comment there, this is not like prescriptive. I mean, it's a guiding document to help us think down the road as a county, and I think that's important. So it's not like crossing T's and dotting I's, and you can only do certain things. So I think that's important. So I'm good with it.
And I think one important piece of having the city take part and have a chapter was the fact that we were able to really chart our own path. I think that Matt was very influential in including things like, new developments need to have sidewalks and have that connectivity, because it is something that people love around here, is that connection to the trails. And again, that's simply a recommendation, but it's a good one. We like it when new developments have spaces for people to walk out of the road. I will say that the city maintained the the recommendation to explore what building codes would do in Knox County. The county took that out. It is, again, not telling us that we have to put building codes in place. It was just something that stakeholders thought was important. And when we're getting multiple voices, I think it's important for us to recognize that that was a voice in the room. Even if we choose not to do it, it is important that it remains in there because somebody thought it was important enough to say. So I don't want anybody to come back and go, wait, this has the word building codes in it. Yes, it does. It is recommended that we study that. It is not a prescription, again, to put those into place. And I think everybody up here knows that I am not a building code proponent. So I hope that you will have confidence in me that when I say that I fought to keep that in there, it wasn't because I want building codes in, but that I want transparency and I wanted to hear the voices to take Mount Vernon and Knox County into the future. Any other questions? Matt, you have been involved in this thoroughly, and I would love to hear your perspective on how the experience went and how you think the city is going to benefit from this.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Chair. Council, I'm rather proud of the effort that went into this. This is the most comprehensive of a comprehensive plan that I've seen come out of Knox County, and that is saying something. That is going back to, oh gosh, I think as early as there was a document that I think Jeff Gotke dug up that was in the 1974 or even earlier. And so when this really started to amp up was in the 1990s. It was known as the Focus 2100 plan. And that's when we started seeing a lot of development around Columbus. Let's see, well, Gahanna, Newark, Delaware, New Albany, they started to be Polaris area. If you were around in the 90s, it was just cornfields out there. And so it has grown exponentially, and that forced the leaders of the community to take a look and say, okay, let's see, how do we want to manage the growth that's coming our way? It's coming, but how do we manage it, and how do we embrace the trends that are coming our way and the revenue streams, the people, the opportunities, the businesses, and also maintain our character. And it's also forced us to answer the question, what does rural character mean? There were dozens of definitions of what rural character meant. And this is a way of documenting what that is. It's not just farmland. It's how we treat our neighbors. It's how we do activities downtown and what opportunities that we provide, so that hometown feel, providing that hometown feel. And so I'm very happy with how this has turned out, particularly the Mount Vernon growth plan. That's been our main concern, and the participation, I think, was great. Council having as a focus group was terrific, and there's a ton of data. Every data point on that map, there is a reason why. So there's enough to sink our teeth into for a long time, and again, help us use that document as we make decisions on legislation and so forth. As you know, it guides us. Like we said, it's not prescriptive, but it does guide us into that direction. So.
Thank you. I think one thing to note as well is any comment or any public comment that came in on this is going to be captured and put into an appendix at the back. So if you want to read everything that anyone ever had to say about this, they're going to be there. So I appreciate council's support. I am going to take this to its third and final reading tonight because I think that it is important to get this going. And I feel like city council has really dug in on this one, and we know what it is. So unless there's objections, I'm planning to take it to a third reading.
Been around a long time. I remember even before 2100, we had one 2000. Bob Trott, who was in charge of the chamber at the time, brought that up, and one of the big things in that was our going around Mount Vernon, and we've discussed that many times. Haven't gone very far with it, we got into Indian Mounds out on Green Valley Road, the going around the town was going to go through Indian Mounds. So it's been around a long time. I'm glad we're refreshing it, making it current. Okay. We're going to adjourn the land use. We're going to again move to land use and development to discuss the public hearing for the rezoning of 0 South Main Street. Mrs. Keener.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have 20 minutes on this piece of legislation, which I think should be fairly familiar to council. This is slightly different than a rezoning proposal that we saw at the end of last year, I believe, in the same space. I don't know if anyone is here to actually speak on this from the people that are out there. Doesn't look like it. So I will ask council, we'll start at that side this time, if you guys have any questions. And then, Rob, if you'd be willing to just walk us through again that change in the zoning, just so that we have clarity on it. And we'll take the questions first so that you have a second to gather your thoughts.
I will probably support this tonight, and I say that because what I understood at the last Municipal Planning Commission meeting would be that leaving it R1A could actually make that property more congested, as well as put driveways right out onto South Main and onto Parrot, possibly up to 5 or 6 driveways, which it's already a busy road. I think that was kind of the turning point for me to support the idea of this moving to R3. And I think it was interesting to watch the Municipal Planning Commission, notably one person that I'm pointing at with my thumb, change a little bit of, his mind as well on how this would actually probably be better to go to R3. I think it presents a better option for the housing on that property in that specific location. So I think just in general, I will probably support this. That's not a question, but I'm just talking
okay.
out what I listened
Well,
to.
we don't want to pre-vote, so just so everybody knows.
Not taking count from now.
No.
Similar to some of the same observations that Mel had. I went back and had watched the recording a couple of times, so I was glad to do that. I was glad that.
I know. It was a weird one.
No, it was interesting. There was, if anybody hasn't watched it, the last one especially, like there was a lot of back and forth and a lot of discussion on it. So, and I appreciate Councilman's Mahan and Severin's going, and I think Jay had actually asked for clarification on the vote because it was not something that was without a considerable amount of discussion. So, there were a lot of questions answered, and there were a couple of times that I thought the meeting was actually winding down, and I think discussion kind of kicked off further. So somebody asked a question, and we were off to the races again. So there were a number of scenarios that were painted, and to kind of echo Mel's sentiment, I don't know that I necessarily have any specific questions about it that weren't already answered in that. And there were a number of different scenarios that ran down through, and I will say there were a couple of times while watching that I thought I knew how I felt on it, and then new information showed up, and that kind of changed my perspective as well. So
I don't have questions other than what we talked about earlier, and I think you're going to clarify that.
Yeah.
I'll get to that.
One thing I ask is I agree with not having a lot of entrances onto Main Street, but how do we know? We haven't seen a plan. How do we know they're not going to go out onto Main Street when it's R3?
So that's important to note. We are not voting on a plan. There is no plan. This is simply voting on changing the zoning. So no plan in place, just the
But we don't know.
But we don't know.
It still could go out onto Main Street.
Well, actually, the curb cuts to access the property will require city approval. Now, if you break each of those lots into an individual lot, each of them is allowed to get a curb cut. But if he uses it as one piece of property to maximize the number of units he could put on under the R3 zoning, he will probably only get one, and we will be able to negotiate that with him.
Thank you. Oh,
I haven't watched, but now I'm going to. They've made it very interesting, so I've got to get on there and find the time to watch it. Then I'll maybe have some other questions because of hearing what they're saying. So I want to watch.
Well,
But
it's
we're up
up
for third reading.
It's up
Yeah.
for third reading
but
this
I'm still
evening.
going to watch it.
It's riveting.
It was more interesting than daytime television, so.
That's not saying a lot.
Wasn't there language in there that said something about like a buffer?
So that's why, what I want Rob to clarify on what the zoning currently is, and then what the language is for what the zoning will be transferring into.
Okay. So, tell me the question you want, what's the question you want answered first?
So, tell us what the zoning currently sits at, and then what the,
Currently, the zoning is R1A. And in our new zoning code rewrite, we had R1, but we had many lots in the city that are from probably in the 1800s that they were originally laid out that are smaller than what we currently require as an R1. Like, for instance, you know, the lot that I live on is smaller than technically required currently under city zoning, and so that would have made it difficult. So we came up with R1A, which is applied to a number of parts of the city that were previously R1 to allow a bit of a smaller frontage and not as deep. And it also changed the size of the house you could put on there. It reduced the size of the minimum size of the house. That's R1A, and that's what these 6 lots are. So now the change is to R3, and R3 is multifamily housing. And that means that, at least in this case, to maximize it, you're going to go and put all of the lots together as one unit. And then you will be able to build the maximum number of units at the largest size. Now, that's what we're sort of looking at.
what, do you have the definition for R3?
Right, you want, all right.
I can pull it up. Forever.
Yeah, we got.
We
well,
do, actually.
And if I could just clarify, Rob, with what you were saying, that by moving this to R3, essentially, we can limit the number of entrances to the property, correct?
Yes.
What is the
R3
street? What is the street? Not Parrot. What's the one on the other side?
Is it
Par-
Adamson?
Adamson, maybe.
Yeah, Adamson and Parrot are parallel to each other,
Right.
and this is South Main is the road that the bulk of these face. There also is an alley behind a number of the lots, and depending on how they choose to build, and assuming that they're aiming for the maximum number of lots or the maximum number of dwelling units on the properties, that will probably have some access through the alley rather than actually going out onto South Main Street, because all of those properties that if we would not generally allow a curb cut onto South Main Street because it's too close to the intersection. However, because they're all legal buildable lots, we have to grant them at least one curb cut if we leave it as R1A. So R3 is the attached residential district intended to provide for and encourage orderly, medium-density residential development in the form of multiple family housing as a mixture of different housing types. The stipulated density is intended to provide for areas of suburban character in the community that may also include limited public and institutional uses. That is R3.
Is there anyone here that wants to talk about this? I'm getting some really big eyes from some well-decorated
I have
young
one
men.
more question, I'm sorry. So remind me, if we approve this to go to R3, does a site plan have to come back to anybody? Nobody?
Well, okay, they just can't start slapping things up. They have to submit a proposed zoning plan to the engineering office, specifically to Ms. Blankenship in the, who is the development services manager. And she will make sure before any permits are issued that it complies with the city's zoning code.
Okay.
So in the past, and now we actually have a city inspector who will go out to actually make sure that they're building what they said. Because we have had a number of instances that I'm sure every member of council can recall where we have issued a zoning permit and what they said they were going to do was not actually what they did.
Yeah. Good, that helps.
If I may.
Please.
On,
Please.
in both instances, I was the Ruth Bader Ginsburg of the Municipal Planning Commission, and they flipped my vote at the last minute in hilarious fashion, I might add. So I think the vote was actually 3 yay, 1 yeah. So, and the reason for that was because, not necessarily because I support the density that's being proposed here, but quite like Mel said, in an effort to avoid the, potential 6 small units with the potential for another accessory dwelling unit on each parcel, at that point, requiring access in order to avoid that nightmare scenario, R3 is likely the thing that would save that. So you can't tell the property owner what they can and can't do, and that scenario is allowed in the zoning code. And to the point about the site plan, it's been said that, council passed a zoning code that, didn't require a site plan come forward, and that was oversight in the zoning code. That was the way the old rules were. That's the same follow forward from the last time, so. And there would be no site plan required for these, if the property owner were to come in and build 6 homes with an accessory dwelling unit on the back, there would be no site plan required there either, so.
As long as they met setback
Yep.
and total coverage on the lots, there's nothing the city could do.
And, that's something that we wanted to do, was encourage infilling, but this is I think an extreme example of that, right? So, again, in an effort to avoid that, you gotta maybe take the thing that you don't prefer over the thing that you really don't like, and that's why I flipped my vote.
And I will say the comments that I got were mainly, how can you approve what you don't know you're approving? Was basically.
Yep.
So having this recommendation come to us and the number of council people that sit up here, what does that do?
What does that do? Well, the revised code controls the voting, and this is revised code section 71302. And it says that once municipal planning makes a recommendation, it says the legislative authority, by a vote of not less than 2/3 of its members of such department together, may overrule such approval or disapproval. So basically, if you want to say, no, we don't want it, it will take 6 it'll take 5, it's 2/3. Because 2/3 of 7 is 4.6, and since we can't have 6/10 of a person, it'll take 5 of the 6 of you sitting up here.
I just wanted to clarify, because it was 6.
Thank
the
you. I'm
last time
sorry,
we
I forgot
talked.
to
No,
do
I just
that.
wanted to make sure with
That
Mr.
one's
Mahan
always
gone.
tricky when somebody is absent, so I wanted to make sure.
It was 6 and 7 before, now it's 5 or 6. Is that right?
No, it's always out of 7, the maximum number of votes.
Oh, okay. So it takes everybody here.
No, it takes 5 out of
takes
7.
five.
2/3 is 5.
I have nothing else to say, but we can't close the meeting until 7:15. I feel like we've gotten good information. I feel like the description of the zoning is always helpful, especially as we're dealing with a new zoning code.
So what do those scouts feel about it? I'm gonna ask you to come up later and lead us in the pledge. I'm glad you're here tonight.
Bruce, we've been learning about voting, and we took a vote, and they definitely wanted a lot of zoning. It's something
This
they're
is
all
the one.
passionate about, and I have to take that back because I can't lie on this guy.
I want them to know, 63 years ago, I was at my first city council meeting, working on my citizenship badge. And became Eagle Scout later, but that was only 63 years ago. I was at my first city council meeting, just like they are tonight.
How about that?
And he never
I was
left.
gonna say, he's been coming ever since.
I wasn't even born yet.
Loved it so much.
Email today.
Oh, I'm sorry, Todd, we did receive an email.
Yes, the only communication I've received regarding the proposal was an email today from a resident, Samantha Scholes, in opposition to the proposal. And she asked that it be entered into the record during the legislative session, so we can do that at that time.
Did everyone have a chance to read that? Okay.
Yeah, we all received that.
Oh, this is fun. Next time I'll bring cookies. I do it. You want a cookie?
Thank you.
I save them for the in between. We have to wait because it's a public meeting or a
It's
public hearing,
advertised for a certain period of time.
certain amount of time.
From 5:55 until 7:15. And so the meeting will remain open until the time has elapsed.
Somebody could bust through the door in the last 2 minutes. I doubt it.
Tried and
Took that one out, clients.
Anybody else got an opinion?
Ooh, I hadn't seen this local lead abatement in the budget. That's exciting.
No pending stampede.
Darn.
That clock's wrong.
It is wrong.
We're slow last
That was like
meeting, and now we're going
7:40.
fast this week.
We have 1 minute left. According to Apple. Thinking. Clock's a little bit faster, might as well just call it, huh?
Yeah.
7:15.
Oh, 7:15.
7:15.
I'm all done, Mr. President.
We're going to adjourn the public hearing. We're now in recess until 7:30 PM. We begin the legislative portion of the meeting.